Emeka, in no particular order, sorry to be starting with you, but I know you're up to the task. I would like you to talk to me a little bit about Gen Zs and the brand, the personalities, and how they're influencing the collaborations, and of course how they're still prioritizing high production content. How should brands balance the high-low UGC styles of how to tell stories? And the second part of that is the aspirational aesthetics. I want you to talk to us about the Gen Zs, right? Balancing storytelling is becoming a challenge for them. And basically, they're looking at user-generated content, high-low user-generated content, and more importantly, the aesthetics around it. We are brand owners. We want to show up great. We want to show up nice. Yes?
Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we need your attention, please. We need your attention, please. Those of us at the pavilion, we appreciate what you're doing, but keep the volume low or put yourself on vibrate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. So, Mr. Emeka, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So basically, the question is about UGC, lo-fi content versus highly polished ads. When and how should brands balance between them? And I was recapping the fact that at the heart of this is people, Gen Z, from the research that we see, want relatable content, and largely lo-fi offers this. And the case for lo-fi has obviously made a lot of brands, go into that content creation space, because obviously the authenticity and relatability is high. It also has a high potential for engagement, and it's also very easy to pull off. It doesn't require a huge, setup to make happen. But I was saying that there are downsides to lo-fi content, right? One is that you have no control over your messaging. Different individuals are going to put out what they think about your brand that it should be, and that's a risk to the brand. The second one is also there's not going to be consistency in the output of the communication that you get from time to time. On the flip side, for polished ads, you definitely have control over your messaging. You have brand consistency there any given time. Your recall is also high, because the ads are structured in such a way that the memory cues are clear to, get you recalling. And also the storytelling is really professional. And landing to the point about how should brands use it. For lo-fi, I think brands should use it in that consumer online parts to purchase journey. Right? So use them in form of testimonials and reviews for products. Find how you can curate that and push that sort of content out. Recently, I was on one of the platforms, I think Twitter, and some guy randomly tweeted about a Nivea product. I would mention brands here. Tweeted about a Nivea men's product. And so that also caught my attention in the feed, right? And you'd see he wasn't an influencer or anything. A lot of people still asked, is this a paid post or something? But he says no, and from the traction he was getting, you could see it's just someone's honest review about the product, and it really attracted a lot of people behind it, even women saying, I'll buy this for my man, and that type of stuff. So integrate lo-fi content, find ways to curate that, to give testimonials or reviews about your product. Consumers find that more realistic and can trust when that is coming from fellow consumers. It has to be pulled off in such a way that it's not very salesy. The other side that is now more, when I say pulled off or more curated, is I'd use the example of the in-drive ad with Disney. I'm sure a lot of us remember that particular ad. It's not very high production values, but that storyline that Disney pushed out about the uncle in the village that is doing some spiritual magic resonated with a lot of audiences. At least you'd want to find out more about InDrive, having seen that. So this is how brands can use lo-fi content. If you look at for the hi-fi, for the high production values, you can't compromise when you have a major launch or campaign to get out there. You have a new product you're launching, production values have to be right, messaging has to be on point, all the brand cues has to be there to aid, retention and recall. So it has to be a polished ad. Yes, you risk the fact that it may appear a bit sterile. It may not gather the sort of engagement that it is because it's ultra polished, but at least your message will be consistent. When you do your recalls in brand health trackers and stuff like that, people would remember the key messages that you're trying to pass. If there are important communication to be passed out or announcements by brands from a point of authority, you have to come out extremely polished. When the wave of USSD banking started with GTB, for example, the 737, that has to be very well produced, right? And everybody just gets what they should do with that. So, for me, in a nutshell, that balance needs to come clear. Brands definitely need to figure out how to include more lo-fi content in as part of that investment to consumers, interacting with their brand. I would say that a number of companies are still figuring out how to play in this space. It's not really easy to pull off without appearing too salesy, but there's definitely a case to still keep highly polished content, yeah.
Thank you very much. And, I like the way you gave the examples. That basically tells us that the gains are there, yeah? If we're able to work around it, the gains are there. And Maureen, I would like you to just share your perspective, because when it comes to Gen Z, now this is a general question we're all going to answer, yeah? So when it comes to Gen Z, we look at it from different points of view, depending on your industry, your segment, and depending on what you're currently doing. With Maureen, I'm particularly interested because you have done, you're well-rounded. You've been in sales, you've been marketing. What's your perspective on this lo-fi UGC content, and how can we ensure that brands leverage it? And while you're looking at that, also look at the last mile, the retail, because at the end of the day, even when the brand is known, ultimately you want to make sales, which is where the commercial thing is going to come through. What's your perspective?
Yeah, thank you. So I like the way Emeka has structured it. You need to know when to use it. So generally for a thematic campaign, right, which is the core messaging, I definitely would not use a lo-fi. I would go for, a proper production, but there are quite a lot of tactical campaigns through the year. So just to give an example, 2 days ago, we shot a lo-fi production in the office for one of our brands, 3 Crowns, right, to do Mom of the Year campaign that is coming. And then they asked all of us to say, this trend, my mother once said, okay? And, it was very funny because we actually did it on somebody's phone, right? So my mother once said, of course, it was hilarious. Mine was, my mother once said, I did not kill my mother, you too, you will not kill me. And they were different things. So, but that is for a Mom of the Year. It's a thematic campaign. And then the question you want to ask is, do you want to do a proper production for such a short campaign? The answer would be no. You have World Milk Day, you have Ramadan, you have many activities that, are tactical. And for me, that is where such play. So to give another example, we will launch our brands on TikTok, and one of the things that we did was, again, same low production. I was asked to sit, and the members of the marketing team, they speak, and you're identifying who is speaking, right? And that was what we used to launch our TikTok, page. So definitely, like Emeka has said, I would use, those sort of production because they are short, they are quick. World Milk Day is June 1st. So you usually have activities prior to, and then after World Milk Day is over. So why do you want to go and shoot, that commercial? But linked to that is the messaging, and again, is about the authenticity of it. So I sat down, and if you said, my mother once said, everybody can relate to something your mother once said. And if I sat down and people are behind me and they're speaking, and they can see genuinely, I was struggling to identify some people. There were some that, of course, immediately they spoke. I was like, come on, this is my PA, or this is, somebody. And then, of course, the others. So it's about the messaging, how you deliver the message in a very authentic way.
Appreciate your perspective towards the way people can relate with the messages that have been said. It brings authenticity to the conversation. So I'm going to toot your horn a little bit, and I'm sure you expected it. And if you guys don't know my think tank, here it is in human form. So, Mr. Shegun, it's nice to have you on the panel once again. So, general question, I'll just, the Gen Z conversation and all of that. You've been in the beverage industry, working with youth, young adults, and all of that. What's your perspective to that space and how it relates to the retail world itself?
All right. Thanks, Dr. T. And thank you. Just piggyback off what's been said. I think, for me, I first want to say Gen Z, non-Gen Z, millennial, Gen Alpha, we're expecting them, every one of them are consumers. So the objective of every brand per channel is actually to drive meaningfulness, distinctiveness, and salience. So it will be regardless of that demography. And also when we speak to the Gen Z, there are the Gen Zs by demography, who are by age, but there are those of us who are Gen Z by heart and by usages.
Yes.
And that's what we should be looking at. So Gen Z is not actually that delineated. Gen Z is act of usage, act of consumption. So once we begin to pass conversations like that, we begin to know how then to pass the channel, whether it's hi-fi or lo-fi. So to me, everyone then becomes your target in usage. Then now, when we begin to now drive even those passing as well, in terms of connecting, I'm going to just use the word that Emeka had used. It will always be about brand driving authenticity, being authentic to your brand DNA. Because again, the fact that we want to do all of this differentiation, then we sometimes as brand owner want to behave not true to type. But brands must behave true to type. There is a uniqueness to each brand regardless of that demography. So it will not be about jumping on the bandwagon. It will not be about trends. It will be about speaking truth to power from a brand DNA point of view. And so that's how you then drive authenticity, you drive connection, and you drive resonance. Those are the ways by which I think we can continue to, engage Gen Zs by heart, Gen Zs by age. I think we can still take the conversation forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to something you said. I think it's important that when we talk about authenticity, right, you've actually specified it's about being authentic to the essence of the brand, right? Because it's not about being authentic to the trend or being authentic to, whatever fad it's happening. But here's the thing. The Gen Zs, they can sniff you out if you are not being authentic to your brand. They can absolutely sniff you out because these are the people who go a step further, right, to understand the essence of your brand. I had an interview about a month ago, and I was speaking, interviewing somebody for a senior brand manager role, and the person was telling me about the sustainability initiative of our global Friesland campaigner brand, and asking why we were not doing the same, in Nigeria. So you cannot speak, separate from what your brand stands for. They would sniff you out.
Absolutely. And fantastic input. And just to also progress on the hi-fi, low-fi channel of engagement. Maybe as brand owners whose resources are
Limited.
not infinite, now I'm beginning not to place anything within any file. Honestly.
Really?
Because they are landing the job. The jobs are getting done regardless. Again, it's about the objective. And I'll give you an instance. It's the way I'm thinking about it. When we invest significantly in thematic campaigns, from a 360 degrees point of view, the content is going to the same person who's going to, we're competing against the other guys who are shooting with the low-file gadgets and getting apparently the same result. So sometimes we also need to begin to understand what is like in terms of thematic, tactical, and how we play, most especially at an age where everybody is carrying their transmitter about, and that is their phones. People do no longer really understand it when we do a lot of investment, because even our phones are beginning to do amazing jobs of productions. So, therefore, we then begin to think about it. Even if we invest all of this energy, these resources in creating this content, one, a lot of investment because we are going to be carrying red cameras to shoot this massive budget TVC. We are going to compete with Disney, who's going to use a smaller camera. And to this audience, Gen Z at heart, Gen Z by age, whose attention span is probably 8 seconds, and that the low engagement continue to reduce as they see it. So I spend 50 million on a content, somebody spent 5 million on a content, you watch it once, it's news. You watch it twice, lower news. Third time, we flip. It then means that even the return on investment on our hi-fi, low-fi begin to get called to question. It will again always be about how we have production that engages.
Yes, absolutely.
So at the end of the day,
Maureen, let me
about the
pause.
messaging.
Yes,
right?
the messaging.
Absolutely.
But I
So
want to
it's
put
important,
that
I
want to
the
put some
messaging.
sales angles to it, right?
Absolutely.
I think is a from the brand management point of view, he's said a lot about it. I want to lay on this a retail conference. I want to lay on the retail bit, right? In as much as we're creating the awareness, the messaging, the authenticity, how does it translate to sales? That's it. How is this translating to sales? So Maureen, I want you to help me talk a little bit about the fact that these same Gen Zs are spending 2 times more, right? They're spending 2 times more on experience-based FMCG than other spaces, right? Is it a lasting trend or is it a bubble that we're seeing, right? So I want you to take it up from where it stopped. Now, what does it translate to?
So I don't think it's a fad or it's a bubble. I think it's something that has come to stay. Why? Something that I think we've all said. It's about being authentic. That's one. People want to resonate. People, not just Gen Zs, but again, we keep saying Gen Zs, and I like what you've said. So my nickname in the office is Gen Z Buddy. That's my nickname in the office. Why? Because I like to identify as a Gen Z. Paul, yeah. So I identify as a Gen Z. even though I'm sure if you guess my age, I mean, I definitely have, I have Gen Z children. Again, because I also want to play in that same space as my children. So, I'm constantly following them. So I'm on TikTok and the likes. So why I say it's not a fad is because of the influence that the Gen Zs are having even on the older generation, right? 60% of Nigerians are under 25 years. So that's a huge number. So it's like we've said about being authentic, but it's also, again, because the Gen Zs, these are the people who are becoming increasingly health conscious and also really experience based. So you have Gen Zs who are, experiencing products or experiencing new taste based on their mood, based on boredom, right? So what can you do to improve my mood or to alleviate my boredom? And then next to that, social media is key because right now, shareability is what is key. And so that's why somebody can talk about Nivea, okay, from a personal experience, and then because it's not a paid ad, people are jumping on it. Why do I think it will continue? One, because again, if you look at, like I mentioned, the sheer number of people, consumers that we have in that space, okay, and because social media is key. Now, how does that translate to sales? You want people to experience. So what is important is the sort of formats that you bring this experience into. They say luxury, give them affordable luxury, right? Put these experience-based products in smaller packaging because they must be able to try. Next to that, in terms of your experience, right, there must be a lot of experiential activation. So is it music shows? Are there pop-ups? Is it food shows? Is it, campus activation? You must be able to reach these people, where they naturally come together. And again, there will be a lot to do with partnership and co-creation, especially with influencers. Those are the things that ultimately link to sales. And like we've said, of course, social media being key. So if I take the 4 ways that all of this is linked to sales, is the format, right? They have to be able to try. Is the experiential activation, and then co-creation with influencers.
Thank you. Please, can we give her a round of applause too? I told you guys you will feel the energy, right? Okay, good. Thank you very, very much, Maureen. Now that we've gotten the Gen Z conversation out of the space, because if I leave you guys, you go on, but I'm not going to let you do that to me, okay? So, Emeka, I'm going to come to you in a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the fact that there's been some, when you look at planned trips and impulse buying, impulse buying and planned, when we shop on impulse and when we plan our trips, we are seeing a lot more planned buying happening as against the impulse. What's your view on that? What's your take? And how, as a business, do we remain sustainable? In which direction should we look at?
Okay, more planned buying versus impulse. Would we narrow this down to urban areas or rural?
I would say let's take it in 2 perspectives. In villages, they're still unplanned, definitely. They're consuming on the go. But in the urban space, so I'll say take it from 2 perspectives. From the villages that are developing, and then from the urban space where we all sit, what should be our next steps?
Okay, so from a rural perspective, a lot is going to be obviously more unplanned, and for very obvious reasons. Wages, there's no fixed wages as it were, more subsistence living off farms and all. It's more daily wages when they can also find jobs. is also to understand, let's say, the society or the geography that we're also talking about or you're trying to sell to. If you are in a largely agrarian space, you would find that during planting season, economic activities are going to dip because a lot of people are back on farms. During harvest seasons, you find an uptick in economic activities. Also on the assumption that you have the right kind of products available for the rural market, sachets and those sort of products. So I think to win in that space, since it's impulse, first thing is you have to win at the point of purchase by being firstly available, right? So that's a given. You have to be available. And it's not just being available, it's also how do you turn up at the point of purchase? How is the product merchandised? You've got to grab attention. Hot colors in designing point of sale materials, posters, and so on. Imagery that people can relate to. I think one brand just comes to mind in terms of using that quite smartly. That would be Hero Beer. I'm sure I got that right. With the sun, and there's, for those who know, you would know what the sun in the east would mean. So people seeing that can relate to that, and they would naturally gravitate towards that brand. So winning at that point of purchase, being available, also being well merchandised or displayed. The secondly is also promotions. People are going to want to buy at a bargain. So promotions in periodic markets. There are markets that hold every 4 days, every 5 days, depending on the part of the country you are from. And sometimes these promos are not really heavy-hitting stuff like we would do in urban. It can really be cheap and cheerful stuff that has high perceived value. Kitchen utensils always work. Plates, spoons, buckets because of access to water, right? Almost irrespective of the brand will be extremely valued when you run this kind of promotion. So people look out for these type of things to get a bargain or get something, extra in there. The third part that might be a bit tricky could be how do you leverage local, local opinion leaders to drive some endorsement in there. Now, it has to be local and relevant to the environment for people to be able to resonate. And if they see someone in the community that they respect, or a figure in the geography that is well known and respected, endorsing a product on radio and so on, you foster some fear of missing out, and people, when they have the opportunity, want to actually tap in and try those products. So I'd say that would partly be the playbook for rural. I'm sure Shego and Maureen have more to say on that.
Thank you very much, Emeka. As you see, there are two questions here that are very dicey. Those two questions were for me, actually. But because I have the power of the mic, I'm going to make these two people answer it. But I'll be kind to you guys, don't worry. Shego, I'm going to come to you first, yeah? So, we see rural consumers often buy from mobile traders, right? Rather than fixed shops. How can brands tap into this human algorithm of distribution? So we're talking about the rural consumers, For them, and a typical example would be the hawker. Yeah, it's human algorithm because there's no data, there's no internet, The first two sessions talked about a bit about data and how it's useful. But now, hey, it's rural. There's no data. That human algorithm of the hawker who is moving from place to place, home to home, how can we, how often should mobile traders, how often should we consider mobile traders rather than fixed shops? And how can brands tap into that human algorithm of distribution?
All right. Thank you. It's a hard question. It's your own, Abi.
It was my question, but I won't tell you. I'm already giving you some hints.
I got the PhD holder. Well, seriously. Nothing is being reinvented. There's something called connected availability, physical and mental. It underlines every cycle of marketing, and it will appeal to either urban or rural. If first you are able to land your physical availability and drive your mental availability, then you should be able to actually maneuver that algorithm, human algorithm, towards delivering on consumerism behavior. And if you...
In fact, on both, actually, on both.
Absolutely. And this is what I'm saying. Even if you look at connected availability, it's underpinned by just 4 classical elements of marketing: pricing, placement, promotion, product. And sometimes we tend to imagine that all of these must be available, or some of them are not available. Sometimes, depending on the geographical area or the psychography or demography that is being, delineated, you know which of them to actually play up or play down at any point in time.
Correct.
If you are in the rural area, make the product available. Because the product is branded, it drives its own mental availability. It's doing the job of promotion already. Not all the time is promotion about advertising. Promotion is being in the right place at the right time. Someone even made it a lot simpler. He said, be at the right eyeball level and be at the right arm strength level. And that's why you see some brands, who thrive with the hawkers. It's because they are at the right eyeball level.
Absolutely.
If you are on the road, you can just grab it like that. And that is at the right arm's length level. So the entire human algorithm is actually
Correct.
on that
Well
page.
done. Hey, you see? I knew it. You can do it.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank you very much. That was very good. Yes, sure, Maureen.
The first thing I learned when I went to sales, right, and Kazim is here, the first thing they taught me in sales, he said, your product is your number 1 visibility tool, right? So sometimes, even as marketers, we make so much noise about, visibility. His point on mental and physical availability, you cannot do one without the other. So you can have the best ads, right? If you are not at the point of purchase, then that entire, you've not done anything at all. So that's your product being available, that's actually your number 1 visibility tool. And then the in-market execution now adds to it to say, okay, am I, on the path to purchase? Do you have multiple, are you in multiple touch points? Price compliance versus your key competition, visibility, merchandising, and the likes. And then the points on hawkers, something, fundamental that I also learned in sales. You see that hawker channels, it's been existing, right? And there will continue to be new channels that are existing. Another thing I did learn in sales is consumers, they don't swap channels. They add on to channels. So the hawker channel one day becomes relevant for you, right? It's not because e-commerce, for instance, has started to boom. It doesn't mean you don't go to OKRA anymore.
Yes.
It doesn't mean if I come out of this hall and they are selling some
You will
products,
still buy.
I'm not buying, because at that time the booth outside becomes a channel, itself. So consumers, they don't swap channels; they keep on adding channels.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Just
Oh,
to
sure.
add
Please,
to
go
that,
ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
Interesting conversation around, I think, business model innovation largely. Spoken about hawkers, and you see these models evolving. Reminds me of some businesses I spotlighted in the riverine areas where access by road is just not there. And people are going to ferry products through boats or small barges to get through. I think in the end, businesses or brands have to find ways to actually reach consumers, by all means. And these are areas I find exciting, and I see opportunities where brands can, tap into things like that. And imagine having that barge or canoe, system under control of the brand, as it were, or supported, branded, and you know that this is the boat that brings this to this community at this place in time. I think a lot of business model innovation is happening across our society as times change and consumers also change. And I think it's just important that brands are more on the lookout to really tap into those things and create them and strengthen them. In time, that can then be new channels that we find or actually innovate here.
Absolutely. I believe also that those kind of channels can become structured, yeah? But thank you for the inclusion. Maureen, I would like to pick up your caring conversation. I think it's a very interesting one. I'm sure you weren't going to escape it. You knew that, right? Okay, so we're going to do it now. So when you look at markets like Balogun Market or Kumasi Market, which is in Ghana, operating as quasi-digital hubs where traders, where we coordinate bulk purchases via WhatsApp, via mobile pay. But yet, the inventory is still going through physical distribution. You get, we are literally trading via WhatsApp, via mobile money, via all of those other channels. But the physical distribution of the product is still physical. So is this the future of retail marketing, or where is this going?
I think it's called physical availability for a reason, right? Irrespective of the method you use to get there. If you check my phone, so my office is in Ogba, right? If you type Ogba on my phone, you'll see different description of Ogba. You have chicken Ogba, fish Ogba, tomato seller Ogba, everybody. So I'm in the office, right? And I don't have time to spend in the market. So I just call every Ogba person on my list in Ogba market, right? They put it together. I come into the market. I still physically have to go to the market, right? The only thing is saving on time. And time is a very precious tool.
Absolutely.
So the person you're contacting in Okari, right, you're saving your time, right? But that physical availability still has to happen. So there will be, a sort of match, as it were, right? In part of my distribution model in my office is what we call pre-sellers, for instance, right? So these are the guys who go ahead, right, to make orders and go. So why are you doing that? So you're not wasting your time. You're not doing the cold selling of just driving and going to distribute, and then you get to someone's store and the guy says, oh, I still have enough of your product. So what would the likes of your digital and co help? It helps, of course, like I mentioned, with time management. It helps as well with, not accessories, it's not the word, with assortment, right? So instead of driving to Okare market
with a truck full of products they don't need.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's customized, and then, so those are the two key things. But will they continue to be there? Absolutely. Without physical availability, because you have to get the products anyway, but using digital or mobile, it helps to save time, and ensure that you have the right assortment.
I'm particularly happy with the way you've answered the question, because one of the challenges I've seen in the retail space, especially when it comes to that open market space, is the fact that they don't want any app. The complication of an app is difficult for them. Anything that they cannot understand is difficult to adapt. So the WhatsApp works for them, the mobile money works for them. It's easy, and the level of trust on the thing in their hand. But the moment you introduce an app, I just, from a tech point of view, we just need to make sure that they are agile enough
and
for
simple.
them and simple for them to understand it. So thank you very much. I like the fact that we've talked about saving time and the fact that we can aid assortments, you know. That way we're able to reach the last mile quicker with products that they need. I'm going to ask a general question, which I'm going to throw to all three of you. So, Emeka, I'm going to start with you, and which is the fact that the level of loyalty is decreasing with multinationals, right? Loyalty is a challenge that we're dealing with all the time. What is your take when it comes to, are we really winning the war on pricing, or winning the war with what they call this thing? Is it on share of mind? Is it about the share of mind, or is it about pricing? How are we winning this war?
Okay. So we're all feeling the squeeze. I honestly don't think it's only about pricing. So as the economy contracts and wallets come under pressure, people will make choices to swap categories, downtrade their choices. My theory personally is that when the economy looks up, people will gravitate to the brands whose memory structures are still clear in their heads. They still know the brands that deliver value, the brands that have the right taste, whatever attributes that they're looking for. But right now, yes, you would say that there's a drop in loyalty across brands, but I think this is largely temporary. Not to take away the good job that some local brands that have sprung up are actually doing, right? But yes, loyalty is under squeeze right now, more in some categories than others. That's my take, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Maureen, you take your answer.
Okay, I think the concept of loyalty, in my opinion, is overrated, right? I would rather be in the consideration set, because really there's no loyalty in brand management, in my opinion. Okay, so be in the consideration set, so that at the point of purchase, it now depends on the different in-market execution that you're doing that determines if you're going to be picked. So if you go with the mindset of loyalty, personally, like I said, I think is overrated. Be in a consideration set and at the point of purchase, because what makes people pick one brand over the other at point of purchase, right, is what you need to address, not so much as loyalty.
And I'm just going to re-echo what you said. There is actually no brand loyalty, not one, anywhere. Brands are used per need, per time, per occasion, per motivation. So if you do not speak to any of those, it will not matter. It will not matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the audience will love that I ask you two questions. If you look behind you, there's a poll that has been going on the number of questions. So we have about 8 questions, and the audience is getting to vote which question they would love you to answer. Okay? So I have the questions here, and I'm going to ask one. Just going to choose one. Let me see. Okay, let's do this. So that's a question on the screen. You have rightly indicated that the handshake between digital and traditional channels of trade is likely here to stay. What impact will this have on consumer marketing going forward?
I'd say omni-channel, be available all through different channels, and often the search for a product will not start from a physical store. It's going to start online. And if there are no cues as to where to find you online, then I think the loss has already started from that point. So I think omni-channel marketing is something that would be critical in this new age. Brands must have a better digital signature and take digital marketing to that next level, being found by keywords and all that kind of stuff. The low-fi UGC that we spoke about, you find people recommending easily, then that path to purchase has started literally online and can culminate in store.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to give an example. In my company, one of the highest years that we've sold, products was during COVID. Incidentally, I'm sure, when COVID started, everybody was scared, how we're going to sell. But what was our key selling point? It was this fusion, of digital and physical. So people were not, going out because of COVID. So what did we do? We had, for instance, in gated communities, right, where you had somebody go to deliver door to door. And all you needed to do was to say, for instance, in Magodo, this is the phone number, right? So we had a lot of digital flyers that we circulated online, and all you needed to do was just to check for your location and who is the person to come deliver to you. So that fusion, must continue to happen. People are searching online. Sometimes I want to buy something, I don't know how to go about it. What's the first thing you do? You go online to go search, and good enough, brands are becoming smarter now. People are including consumer care numbers on your packaging, on your even Instagram, how to contact. So that fusion for me is here to stay because it makes it easier to find you. One of the key key component for physical availability is being easy to find, and digital plays a key role in that.
Yeah, and for me, just to take it a little bit forward is to, again, draw that inference as to what you get when you have that physical engagement is conversion, correct? And what we should be doing now in terms of, annexing both together is to also drive conversion when we have digital marketing. And that is beginning to happen where we are having conversion metrics, attached to even some of our digital messaging. How are we able to track all of those things that are happening so we are not just about the vanity metrics? As conversion is going on in store physically, conversion should be going on with the influencers who are perhaps, curating those content. Conversion should be happening with within the e-commerce platform as well. And I think we should literally appreciate how far our fintech sector has gone in Nigeria. Literally, everyone now is able to make those sales and even get transfers. As a matter of fact, just in South Africa, we were having a conversation a couple of days ago, weeks, and guys were talking about how easy it is to actually power retail in Nigeria versus in a country like South Africa, because even, everyone at that level, you could actually just make that purchase with sugar cane, for instance. You could actually buy sugar cane just beside you, and the guy selling the sugar cane tells you to do transfer. And I don't want to use the name. So I think that fusion is happening. I think that fusion will continue to grow, and that we just hope that we continue to power the backbone that actually drive this fusion, such that we are driving conversion, not just physically, but driving conversion also digitally.
Thank you very much, and you must also agree with me that this is the energy levels that this panel has given is awesome and infectious. I want you all to clap specially for Mr. Emeka, who breaks the ice on the questions. He braces it. He's the first to go on all the questions, and I'm like, okay, let's him start again. Let's see how this goes. So thank you very much, and thank you to the awesome panelists. Thank you very much, audience, for helping me complete my sentences.